Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of HardHat Uncovered. We're coming to you live from the studios in Alexandria, Virginia. Welcome back, Lieutenant Oates.
Hey, what's up, man? Good to be back, brother.
Welcome back, Mr. Hipple.
Hey, Junior, what's going on?
Oh, just trying to figure out why our listeners haven't given you a nickname yet.
I don't want one from our listeners.
So if y'all are tuning in, we're still waiting on someone to start giving us some interesting names for Mr. Hipple over here.
I heard enough when I was younger.
All right. Well, everybody, how was y'all's couple days off?
I can't complain. I relaxed a little bit, you know.
Got on your neck for a little bit?
Got on my neck, brother.
I watched a little football, Senior Bowl, and a little bit of the Pro Bowl. What do you guys think about the Pro Bowl?
I didn't know that there was football between the NFC, AFC Championship and the Super Bowl. I know there was like flag football.
It was so bad. I don't think if it's the same next year, I won't even watch a second of it. It was terrible. Did you ever watch it?
No, what were they doing? Playing touch football this year?
Oh my God!
Just asking.
The second a defender would get within like 5 feet of a ball carrier, they'd blow the whistle. No tackles. Like, it was bad.
They'd blow the whistle?
I swear to God, they'd blow the whistle before they even touched them.
Really?
Yep.
Oh, wow.
I thought I saw a comment from Drew Brees or something like that saying, I don't do this to play Pro Bowl.
No, that was Tom Brady.
Oh, Tom, yeah.
I can't remember the linebacker's name, but he didn't make the Pro Bowl back in, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 years ago. And Tom Brady, like, is cool. I don't play this to go to the Pro Bowl. We're in this to win championships or something.
Well, I don't know. Personally, if you gave me $50,000 to play the Pro Bowl, sign me up.
Yeah. Well, plus if you get Pro Bowl MVP, you get a Toyota Corolla or something.
Oh man, even better.
Yeah, you know them Toyota Corollas, man. Everybody wants one of them.
Yeah, you can wind them up. Yeah, you don't have to put gas in them.
Yeah, especially if I was an NFL player making millions of dollars a year. Why wouldn't I want a Toyota Corolla?
All right. So actually, before we dive in today, we're going to be talking about ladder safety. But actually, so we had a listener that provided us, just some, I don't even know if you would call it feedback, but just gave us some commentary and just talked about, just to basically keep up the good work. So thank you to Anthony Kemp, who actually has a channel of his own called Knowledgeable Purpose on Anchor podcast. So if y'all are listening, maybe give him a shout out or an applaud on Anchor. But again, thanks, Anthony, for your comments and your feedback, and we just hope you keep tuning in.
Yeah, and we appreciate everybody listening. And I know this is a new thing, so the more comments we get, the more feedback we get, the better. I know I've had a couple people reach out on LinkedIn, and I appreciate any feedback we get. So keep it coming.
Oh yeah, Anthony. Yeah, appreciate you tuning in, brother.
Yep. And also thanks to our premier sponsor, Trinity Safety Group, because we always talk about the HardHat Uncovered Studios here in Alexandria, but this is the offices of Trinity Safety Group. So thank you for allowing us to use your office to make a difference in safety out there.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so diving in today, we're going to be talking about ladder safety, and as always, this is one of those topics that we could spend hours and hours on, and so we're going to try to do a little deep dive and pull out all the meat and potatoes and talk about it the best that we can. So when it comes to ladders, I guarantee all of us have stories of people we've seen, how they're utilizing ladders, where they're utilizing these ladders. And I don't know if y'all had a chance to look at that video I sent y'all, and maybe I can put that for our YouTube viewers. Maybe I can add that in there and blur out the image, because there was the name of the store on there.
Yeah, you're getting pretty good at this whole video editing thing. We're getting more tech savvy by the minute.
Yeah. So if you want to see what video I'm talking about, take a look at this video on YouTube for this podcast, and I'll drop that in there. Something I saw, I want to say it was Saturday morning, and so pretty interesting how they were using a ladder on the roof.
Duh, I gotta push play. He's like, hold on.
Yeah, he's like looking.
Yeah. This is so unsafe.
How long does it take to do?
Well,
Yeah,
Absolutely.
it's one of those things where, most of us have probably done that or something similar at some point in our life, not knowing any better. So, today we're going to talk about why we shouldn't do things like that.
Right. And the fact that 40% of falls on the job, 40% of accidents on the job come from falls, or deaths are from falls.
Right, yeah, almost half of all worker deaths are from falls, and
Absolutely.
where are people falling from the most? Ladders, yeah.
25%. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's crazy because, I know OSHA gives those stats that way, but what's crazy, if you really dig in and if you look at distances of falls and stuff like that, it's crazy how many people die from falls off of ladders that are like in a 6 foot, 8 foot
Absolutely.
range.
6 to 10, like them small step ladders. They just fall, hit their head, or fall into something. So yeah,
Right.
it does. You don't have to be 30 feet in the air to
No.
die from falling off a ladder.
This has come from, how you set it up, and, you got to slow down and plan it. I always talk about planning your work, but I can tell you, speaking from an experience, I fell off a ladder trying to set it up and climb it at the same time.
Yeah,
You know what
yeah,
I'm saying?
yeah.
And so when I was trying to set it up and climb it, I just kept going forward and
Yeah.
fail.
I like we've talked about before. I was a roofer for 6 years. A foreman for a roofing company, and all we deal with is ladders. And I've done some stuff in my day that's very questionable. But that was all before I got into safety. Now I know better. I wouldn't do that
Absolutely.
now. But
And a lot of people don't think about, like ladders, because you see them all the time.
Yep.
You know what I mean? It's one of those things on every job.
and it's a common household thing. But
Absolutely.
most people have a ladder
You don't
at their
even
house.
think about it,
Yeah, and what's crazy is that, so again, we look into these stats, and it's one of the top 3 most cited things that come out of OSHA.
Every year. Every single
and,
year.
and it's still on the rise.
Yep.
So it's not like if it was number 1 at one year
Yeah.
and then it dropped down to number 3. It's steadily on the rise.
I looked into the kind of the stats per se before we talked about the ladders, and like Junior said, the last 5 years we've been trending upward. And as anybody in safety knows, you never want to trend upward when it relates to injuries. So
Right.
Yep.
Absolutely.
No, we want to be trending upward when it comes to the reduction of injuries and accidents on our job site. So, all right. So what we're going to be talking about is just basically all the steps involved in utilizing the ladders. How to choose the right ladder, how to inspect it, set it up, all the hazards. Just things that come along with that. Some of the stories that we've seen and
How you climb it.
how you climb it.
And most of the stuff we're going to be talking about, we're going to be referencing OSHA. So if you want to look into OSHA construction standard, it'd be 1926 1053. We'll also be referencing ANSI. So ANSI puts out a lot of stuff where they give best practices, or how we should be doing things. So,
That's under 814, right?
oh, you got it. You knew that already. ANSI 814.
Right. I'm
Man,
just-
that's a good guess.
It was, you know what I mean? Did you see me over here rolling, shaking the dice up?
It's almost like you do
Boom!
that.
I threw a 14.
2 sevens.
There are 2 sevens on the
That's
dice.
right. Boom.
You got them special die, huh?
That's right.
So Damon, you typically talk about the pre-planning and all that. So I'm going to allow you I'm going to help you just to start off the podcast that way. The pre-planning, right, which is choosing the right ladder.
Right. Absolutely. You got to plan the work. You got to know what work you're doing, right? And you got to be able to choose the ladder, whether it's a A-frame ladder, extension ladder or something like that. You got to choose the work that you're doing before you even choose a ladder, because, of course, we know we can't use an A-frame as an extension ladder, leaning it up against walls and stuff like that. You know what I mean? You got to know the location and the height of the work, so you don't want to be doing something that's 12 feet off the ground and get a 6-foot ladder and try to step on the top rung.
Exactly.
You understand what I'm saying?
Well, and also you said location. So, is there enough space to set up an A-frame? Do I
Absolutely.
have to use an extension?
Extension ladder and tie it off and stuff like that. Also, a lot of people overlook this. Using aluminum ladders and stuff, people overlook that a lot. You're not supposed to use them around electrical.
Everybody likes them because they're light, right?
Absolutely. You know what I mean? But you can't use it around, electrical work and stuff like that, because, of course, you can get electrocuted, shocked, or whatever.
Well, the job sites I've been on, we don't allow aluminum
On the job.
on at all. But especially in excavations or something, or somewhere there could be buried underground electrical
utilities, yeah.
Exactly. Anything, especially if you're putting it into an excavation that's holding water.
Right.
So,
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's definitely a good point to bring up.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, and I'll tell you this, and so what a lot of people don't realize is that, so choosing the correct ladder is, you know, it's important as, you know, when you're doing the job and stuff like that. But what comes next after choosing the right ladder? After choosing the right ladder, what's the next thing that comes in line?
Got to
So now
inspect
I got the ladder.
Got to inspect it, brother.
Yeah, I picked the right ladder.
Yep.
Right, or I built the right ladder.
Yep.
You know, because you can build a job ladder, right?
Absolutely.
So then what's next? So we got to, you know, we got to inspect them, right?
So what are we looking for? You know, a lot of times we say, you know, we should inspect this before we use it, but people don't know what to look for. So, you know, let's talk about what to look for.
Right. Well, you got to look at to make sure that it's in good working order, not twisted, distorted. You know,
Yep.
rungs missing, stuff like that. You know, and how many jobs you've been on to where they have like mud, a lot of mud, grease, oil.
Build up on the rungs, yeah.
Absolutely, and people will still use them. You know what I mean?
The side rails, you know, especially most of these construction sites are using fiberglass ladders, so they get beat up by the sun, being thrown in and out of trucks. The side rails get split, so that's always one of the first areas you want to check when you're inspecting a ladder, is to make sure there's no damage to the side rails. Like you said, Damon, we're checking the rungs, we're making sure they're intact, we're making sure they're not bent, because, you know, as we know, if a rung's bent, you know, the integrity is shot, right?
Absolutely, yeah. And then another thing that people fail to look at, and I see it on jobs all the time, is the stickers will be missing.
Yeah.
So you don't know the weight capacity of that particular ladder. You know what I'm saying?
A little pro tip for this one that I've learned in my years in construction: all ladder manufacturers, you can order the stickers and the labels. So if you buy a ladder, make sure you get some extra labels and stickers. And when you go to place them on the ladder, if you put them on the inside of the rail, they're less likely to get worn off, because there's less people touching them on the inside. Whereas the outside, you know, you're throwing them on the ladder rack of a truck, you know.
Sitting them down on the ground, pushing them, scooting them across.
Exactly. So a little pro tip, you put them on the inside, it helps a lot.
Right.
Yeah, and we got to be careful also about spray painting our ladders and stuff like that. I've been on several jobs. You know, granted, we got 2 to 20 contractors on the job site, and so everyone's bringing their own tools, their own equipment, their own ladders.
Everybody's got their own color code.
You know, everyone's painting them, you know, green, purple, blue, pink, you know, whatever.
Nobody wants to steal a pink ladder.
Yeah, nobody wants to steal a pink ladder, right? But now the problem that comes with spray painting your ladder is now if you're starting to spray paint over the rivets, any, you know, maybe small cracks that are now coming into the ladder or something like that.
Yeah, all those stress fractures, now you can't see them because you spray painted over them.
Spray painted over the labels.
Yeah.
But what about the guy that inspects the ladder, sees the cracks on it, and spray paints over it to try to cover it up? Think about it.
That's a company man there.
Think about it.
Or
It
puts
happens.
a new label over the crack.
Yeah.
It happens.
Ain't nobody gonna see this.
It happens. I'm telling you.
Yeah, and then we talked earlier about job-built ladders. So ANSI lays out a specific set of standards in the A14 of what meets their standard for a job-built ladder. So there's a lot of things you're going to look for. So I'm not going to go over it all right now because it would be another 30-minute podcast. But things like how many nails we're putting in each rung. So you need at least 3 nails in each rung. The spacing requirements, they have very specific spacing requirements. You know, don't quote me on this, but I think it's 16 to 22 inches. And then, you know, if you think about it, why do we have to have the same spacing between ladders? Has anybody ever walked up a flight of stairs and in an old house, and then that top step or that last step is a little bit longer, a little bit shorter, and you trip?
Yeah, it throws your vertigo off. It throws your sense of balance.
Yeah,
right?
think about climbing a ladder. How many times do you actually think about every step you make? You don't. You just know that each step will be the same distance apart, right? So
Absolutely.
so ANSI puts out all these different guidelines for building these ladders. Also, there's, you know, requirements as far as rungs and cleats, double cleated ladders. So if you're, you know, accessing an area on a job site where there's a lot of foot traffic, in an emergency situation, a lot of people have to exit off that ladder. You know, you can do a double cleat ladder, you know, two lanes of traffic, or
absolutely.
one up, one down. So there's a lot of different requirements that ANSI puts in their standard.
Yeah. So basically, Dylan, off that same note. So basically, I can, if it's just going to be a little short climb, I could just throw a pallet up sideways?
No.
Negative.
Okay, so I can't use a pallet.
Sure, you can do it, but you're not. It's not going to work
If you're
for
going to
you.
use a pallet, you might as well break out the boots with the Icarus wings on them and just hover up there. It'd be better.
Exactly.
Be safer.
Yeah. But most of the time, job built ladders are built for a very specific purpose. You know, you're tailoring them to your exact needs. You know, you're putting, maybe you only need 2 steps to get up to this next level, so you're only putting 2 rungs on your ladder. So they're very useful, but if you're making your own ladders, you have to make sure they're following the right standards.
All right.
But why couldn't I use a 2-foot step ladder and just lean that up against why couldn't I use that? That's, it's only 2 feet.
Why? You think a step ladder is made to be used in a closed position?
I'm just saying, sometimes it happens, and when you try to explain to them that that's the wrong ladder, you'll get a lot of kickback. I'm just wondering why. You know what I mean? Why can't you use it?
Well, it's just like asking. Let's say, what if I were to ask Craftsman, hey, this box wrench you got, why can't I hammer down a nail with it?
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah,
So
it's not the tool for the job.
It's not the tool for the job. It's not what the manufacturer intended it to do. All the tests that they run on it, they didn't intend it to be folded up, leaned against the wall, and utilized that way.
Right.
So
good
point there.
Yeah, that brings us into our next topic. Setting up and placing your ladder. So what are different things we're looking at when we're setting up our ladder and figuring out where to place that ladder?
Right. First of all, to me, every time I ever set one up, I always looked to make sure that the ground was either level, stable. You know what I mean? Not trying to set it up in uneven ground, in different like sand, mud, stuff like that. Yeah.
Well, if it's uneven, you just throw a
Negative.
couple pieces. You saying I just
I
can't
already
throw?
know what you're gonna say. No, can't throw a piece of plywood.
I just can't
throw
throw
a
just to
2x4.
balance it out.
No, can't do that, brother.
What if I climb up, leaned over a little bit?
No, can't do
like
that either.
like American Ninja Warrior.
Negative.
It's all about balancing that.
Right, like I said, you better go get the boots with the Icarus wings and just hover up there and be
All
good.
right.
If your ladder's leaning a little to the right, you just put a little more weight to the
Yeah.
left.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was gonna
Right.
watch like a Karate Kid movie, learn balance.
Yeah, okay.
And then just climb up
All right,
over it.
right, they'll be calling you wax on, wax off.
Oh, Danielson.
Okay, so yeah, we got to make sure that it's stable, right? So we're not setting up this ladder in the mud and uneven surfaces. A lot of these job sites, they're typically, unless you're in a general industry where you're inside of a building that's already built and or in a factory or something like that. Typically, a lot of the job sites, even out in the refineries, working pipeline and construction, anything like that, you typically don't have the typically have it to where it's set up already where you got stable ground, nice rock laid out.
Right,
or
you,
nice
you got to
concrete
make
pads.
your stable ground most of the time.
Either that or get a spotter, somebody to stand on the bottom of the ladder as you go up. You know what I'm saying?
To hold it in
To
place.
hold it in place.
But what if it's still unlevel?
You gotta get somebody that's a little heavier and stronger.
Get a spotter with a shovel.
Right, absolutely. But you see that all the time. You even see that on jobs when they use an A-frame and they'll lean it up and then they'll have a guy holding the bottom. Well, I got the ladder. It's like, no, bro, you can't use it
work
like
that way.
Right.
Yeah.
Get the right ladder for the job.
So we're talking about step ladders, A-frame ladders, but what about the extended ladders? When we're setting that up, we got to make sure that we're setting those things up. A lot of these jobs that they say that they're getting set up, they bring out the first thing, which is maybe a Connex or something like that. And so now you got individuals that got to get on top of a Connex or on top of something, and they'll just come with an extended ladder.
Yeah.
And they just throw it up there, or they'll extend it up. Whenever they're setting these things up, they got to make sure that they're setting them up right.
Absolutely.
As well.
We have to have that
3
3
feet.
feet past your landing area. And why do you have that 3 feet? It's so that whenever you're coming back down, you have something to grab onto.
Step
You're
down.
not blindly stepping over
Right.
the edge. I've personally, and I shouldn't admit this, but used a ladder that was too short to get on a roof. As you're climbing back down, you're going to the edge of the roof. You can't even see your ladder.
Right.
You're just
You
guessing,
get nervous,
and then you're
right.
like holding on to the edge of the roof, kicking with your feet, looking for your step.
Absolutely. And see, the thing about it is, it's good that you admitted to that, because a lot of people don't like to admit when they did things in the past. You know, that's why we put these messages out, because a lot of times we speak from experience when we talk about a lot of this stuff, to give a person an understanding like, yeah, I've been there, done that. I can't sit up and act like that I'm the safety god, you know what I mean?
Right, I've never done anything
Absolutely.
wrong. I actually have kicked the ladder over while doing that before,
Absolutely, right.
and then had to have someone bring me a ladder to come get me.
Absolutely.
I mean, now, maybe I might have been the guy that might have took the ladder away.
Absolutely.
And
I didn't know
someone
he was up there.
Yeah, and left somebody stranded up there. While I
After
went
you
to
come-
lunch.
After you come back and he's laid out on the ground, it's like, man, what happened to you?
and that's why we should secure our ladders
Absolutely, time off.
because people like Junior
Yep.
come
No,
around
but-
and
but-
stealing
but-
ladders.
But yeah, so Dylan, so you're talking about securing ladders, but I've seen, we're talking about, placing on stable, a stable surface. I've seen people stack up pallets and
Yeah.
put ladders on top of a stack of pallets. I've seen them put on top of a gang box.
Skids. Yeah.
I've seen all
I've seen
kind
people put ladders in aerial lifts.
Yeah, absolutely. But real talk, back when I started many moons ago, we used to have step ladders in aerial lifts. We was doing a hangar, an aircraft hangar on an Air Force base, and the lifts could only get so high. So we had A-frames.
To get you the rest of the way.
Real talk, yeah, to put the piping in, the sprinkler system. Yeah, absolutely. So could you imagine climbing up on an A-frame ladder? You're already 40 plus feet up in the air. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no thanks.
Yeah. No, I mean, so I worked in a fab shop before I got into construction, and we did we had to replace one of the lights that came off the building itself. So the building was probably, 18 feet, 20 feet tall. So we did used the forklifts, scooted the forks together, raised it up, and then I was the guy
Right.
that had to climb up on the ladder that was
Right.
off of the forks.
Yeah.
So that was pretty
Yeah,
interesting.
I'm guilty of that one as well. I'm probably the most unsafe safety guy out there. Right?
Well, you used to be.
Used to be, yeah. This is all
Right.
before I got into it.
Right. Because
Yeah.
when you
Before I knew better.
But no, it's not so much before you knew better. It's before you learned
Right.
the correct way to do stuff.
Right.
Everybody started off, all right, this has to be done. So when
Get
your
it done no
mind,
matter
if you don't
what.
have the experience, you're gonna do it the best way you know how.
Yep.
Especially if you don't have somebody saying, hey, you can't do it like that because that'll happen, this will happen. Because especially when you're young,
Yep.
right, you're invincible. So you just get a plan in your head and then you go for it.
Yeah.
And when you get my age and you look back on it, be like,
Boy, that was stupid.
did I do that? You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
but so being honest and transparent, I'm not gonna sit here and lie. And my struggle is sometimes the old me wants to interfere with the new me, or becoming the new me. And there's been times even at home, I've used a chair to stand on. And the funny thing is that when my own kids have to say, Dad, what would you do if you saw somebody doing it at work?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
it's almost a reality check. Like,
Right.
man.
But at least they're calling you out on
Yeah,
it.
Yeah.
You
They're
understand what I'm
keeping you
saying?
in check.
Keep-
But
you
hey,
in check.
but the old me still kicks in because I'm like, man, busted.
Yep.
Instead of thinking, oh, I'm doing this wrong, I was like, man, my kids busted me.
Absolutely.
Instead of, oh man, the safety guy busted me.
He's in trouble.
Absolutely.
So another thing is that we got to take into consideration though, as we're setting up these ladders, is all the dangers and the hazards that come around us.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, when you're on a construction site, there are so many moving parts and pieces and people that you don't think about. So, for example, if I'm setting up a ladder to go to another surface or work, is there an aerial lift around me? Is there a scissor lift? Is there a forklift? Is there any mobile equipment that can hit my ladder? So that's one thing I think about.
Right. Then you got to think about the stuff below you. You know what I mean? Like how many times you climbed up on a ladder and looked off to the side and saw rebar?
Yeah, yeah,
You know what I mean?
100%.
Right. That's not capped. So
So think about even in the general industry, I've gone on a couple of some of these brewery tours and stuff like that, to the Jelly Belly factory out in California, and of course now as a safety guy, when I go into those areas, I'm always looking at safety hazards or safety situations and stuff like that. So typically in those areas they have permanent ladders, right? And so they're set up. But as I know we're talking more along the lines of more of the temporary ladder settings and the mobile ladder settings. But some of these permanent ladders that I've seen in some of these buildings that that are already built and done, now they're just doing typical just day-to-day work in factories and stuff like that. What's amazing is that I'll go into some of these buildings and I'll see those ladders are a 20-foot straight shot, and they don't have any ladder cage. They don't have any type of protection, and then you just get up there, and some of them don't even have a swing gate or something that closes that ladder
behind you,
access
yeah.
off, which I guess we'll talk a little bit more on those things when we talk about hazards and stuff. But some of those areas, if you fall off that ladder, you're falling off into a hopper or some type of moving equipment, conveyor belts, systems like that.
Right.
I know for us, being in the construction industry, we think along those lines. But I just think about some of those areas that aren't construction. Like I said, it's general industry or something like that, and they're exposed to those hazards every single day.
I don't know why I thought about Beer Fest, but whenever you start talking about that, did you ever watch the movie Beer Fest? They fall into a giant hopper of beer, and it has the hops and the yeast, so they can't get out.
They have to drink their way out? Or?
Yeah. That's exactly what happened, actually. But talking about the ladder setup and all the hazards around us, one of the other ones I wanted to bring up is overhead hazards. For example, some sites I'm on right now, they have temporary elevators. And recently I've seen people setting up ladders right underneath the temporary elevator with no lockout tagout. Right. So you got to think about all those kinds of things. Not only what's below you, but what's above you that can come and cause harm.
Right. Absolutely.
So,
right.
No, go ahead.
No, also too, working on different job sites where you're setting up a ladder near a handrail, near a leading edge.
That happens a lot, right?
A lot. You know what I mean? And people don't secure the ladder, first of all. And second of all, a lot of times they don't use the proper fall protection for that ladder. They have LE fall protection, leading edge fall protection, also that you can secure that ladder to the handrail, to the upright part of the handrail.
And not to get too off topic, but since you brought up leading edge fall protection, just so everyone is aware out there, they make specific leading edge fall protection for working near a leading edge, and it's marked with LE on it.
Right.
I know Guardian has LE, Rebel, DBI Sala, all these companies have specific SRLs for leading edge. And the difference is most of them have like a shock pack attached to them, and they're designed to actually stop if that cable runs over an edge or over a corner. Think about how an SRL works. It stops when it has that sudden movement, or if it's going over an edge, it might not stop because it's not designed to. So that's why we have the leading edge.
You keep saying SRL. What is, for the people out there that don't know what SRL means, what is that?
Self-retracting lifeline.
Oh, okay. I'm just saying.
SRL. My bad.
Right. If we throw them acronyms out there, we got to make sure that the people that are listening that might not be
know what I'm talking about.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, we'll even break it down a little bit further. So when we're talking about
yo-yo, it's a yo-yo.
So when we're talking about a leading edge, we're talking about an edge where you can fall, right? So let's just say if I'm up on a perfect example is if I'm on the roof of a house, the leading edge would be the edge of the roof.
Right.
So if I take one more step over that leading edge, then I'm falling to the ground.
Right.
Absolutely.
So that's what it means by leading edge. So good point. Right. Good point there, Lieutenant Oates. Way to call us out on that. So.
Yeah, and what I'm thinking of leading edge most of the time is high-rise construction buildings. You have multiple floors, and usually they're just protected by some sort of guardrail system, whether it's a cable guardrail.
Yep.
So what happens when I set up my step ladder? I only have a 4-foot step ladder, and I'm working right beside that guardrail. So what do you guys think?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's pretty simple, right? So let's just say if we already know that we have to have the handrail at 39 to 42 inches.
Plus or minus, yeah.
All right. So if we know that's how high the handrail has to be, the moment I take one step higher than that, well, I have now gone above the height of the handrail.
Absolutely.
So what happens? So now I'm exposed to that fall, right? So even though I'm on a ladder and I'm inside the handrail, once I take that step above, the 2 steps above, now I'm higher than the handrail, and I've eliminated, what that OSHA standard is for, for the handrail, and now I got to tie off. Now that's an easy case scenario to say, okay, now I'm getting on a ladder. I know I need to tie off. I'm next to a leading edge. I'm next to the handrail. But where it gets hard is now let's just say if I'm 3 or 4 feet away from a handrail, from a leading edge.
Right, you're not necessarily right up against it.
But let's just say if I have a 12-foot, A-frame ladder in the middle of a platform, and then now I'm halfway up it, so now I'm 6 feet off the ground, but I'm only 3 feet away from the handrail. So now there's no standard out there that says, hey, you know what, you need to tie off when you're X amount of feet away, X amount of feet, above. But the best practice is
because if that ladder tips, you're done.
Yep. If that ladder tips in that direction of the handrail,
finished.
Yeah. Now you're
going over
with
the
the
edge,
trajectory. You're going over the edge.
Yep,
Absolutely
exactly.
right. So so just take that into consideration as you're working off when you're working in heights, when you're working off platforms near leading edges, high-rise buildings, top of connexes and stuff like that. Just take all those things into consideration. So, okay, so we've chosen the correct ladder. We've done that. We have inspected the ladder. We've set it up. What's next?
You gotta know
Climb
how
it.
to climb it.
Gotta
baby.
climb that ladder.
Gotta
know how to
climb it.
Technique.
So I know I've seen this on several jobs, and I've heard this on several jobs. The confusion is, what exactly does it mean by 3 points of contact?
Okay, so from my understanding, I've always thought about 3 points of contact: 2 feet, 1 hand,
Or
2 hands, 1 foot.
Yep.
That's 3 points of contact. But then you get some people that take it too far and think that 3 points of contact is like 2 feet in their chest. That's 3 points of contact, so they can work with both hands or something like that. But it should be really broke down and explained as 3 points of control.
Yeah.
Right. And you can't control anything with your 2 feet in your chest. You know what I mean?
well, it depends on how big your chest is.
Absolutely. You know what I mean? You need a hand, 2 feet, 1 foot, 2 hands. You need to be able to control that.
So we were talking about this before the podcast, and Junior brought it up, and I think it's a great thing to bring up is what is control versus contact, right?
Yep. So let's just give an example. Now I'm up on top of the ladder. I'm on a 12-foot A-frame, and I have both my feet planted on, and I'm using my chest to lean against the ladder. I got a drill in one hand, and I got something else in this other hand. And
channel
now,
locks.
Channel locks. Now I lose control. Lose balance. So what are my options? Right. My options are I drop a drill.
Yeah,
while
I'll
I'm
drop the channel
falling,
locks.
Drop the channel locks.
Or if you're real good, you use the channel locks to grab onto the,
Right,
the rung of the ladder.
Right. So now it's I've created additional hazards because now I got to take into consideration: do I fall or do I drop what's in my hands?
Right.
So that's the whole concept behind the 3 points of control is because now if I have something in my hands, I've created another hazard on top of the fact that I'm already on top of a ladder.
Right. The only thing that they can argue about is if you have that drill or those channel locks tethered off. You understand what I'm saying? Then you can drop them.
Yeah.
But you better be able to grab on to grab onto something before you fall if you're not tied off.
Yeah. So the other thing you want to talk about when climbing a ladder is how your body is positioned. So I was always taught the belt buckle rule. Have you guys ever heard the belt buckle rule? So belt buckle rule is your belt buckle should never leave the center of the ladder. So that's gonna keep you from leaning outside of that comfort zone.
Yeah, that's a good practice. But if you've seen sprinkler fitters work, electricians work, pipe fitters work, guys that do duct work, those guys, sheet metal guys, they never stay in the center of the ladder. They always lean from one side to another. You know what I mean?
When they're working off a ladder?
When they're working off a ladder.
So what's the difference? So we'll bring that up now. So climbing a ladder, do you have to be tied off if you're just climbing a 20-foot ladder?
It depends. If you stop to do work, then yeah.
Exactly.
But if you're going from that 20-foot run and not stopping, then no.
Exactly. So that's the difference there is, these guys are stopping to do work. So therefore they're tied off, right? They're protected from falls.
Right.
Yep. Okay. So that leads right into the next thing. So we're talking about climbing the ladder, and then now we're talking about actually working from the ladder.
Right.
So let's just say and I've had to do this before, right? So I've had to get to the top of a ladder, and then had to carry up a tool with me.
Right.
Right.
Right. So I could tell you several scenarios that I've done. So I've tied a rope to my waist.
Yep.
Climb up.
With a bucket.
Yep. And then get to where I got to go.
And pull the bucket up.
Right. But now I'm typically turning around on my ladder
Yep.
to pull the bucket up.
Negative.
Or, I'm doing just these crazy, almost looks like I'm doing yoga on the ladder, just trying to figure out how to get something up there.
I wouldn't go that far.
Right.
I'm doing the one leg sticking out, doing the flamingo.
And see, the thing about
Downward
it is
facing
that,
dog.
that's not the best practice at all. You should always be facing the ladder when you climb it.
Right.
Right. But speaking from the construction side of things and not the safety side of things, a lot of times that message is not put out in toolbox talks, in the morning meetings with the foremen, or even the GFs or the superintendents. You understand what I'm saying? So to me, a good safety program, everybody has to be on board, right? Because the job's going to get done. You know, because I've always thought my whole career, working safe does not mean working slow.
Mm-hmm.
You just got to have the plan, and you got to be focused on what you're doing. You know what I mean? But if you talk to some people that they're all about production, they don't care how you get it done. They just want it done. You know, you start talking to people like that, then they don't want to hear anything about the safest ways or doing stuff by procedure or whatever. They just want to get it done.
Right.
So,
yeah, like you said, the job's going to get done no matter what.
Absolutely.
So as safety professionals, we need to help facilitate that work in the safest manner possible.
Absolutely.
Right.
Right. And even that being said, you know, there are a lot of different safe ways to do it.
Right. Yeah. There's
so
not
my
one
way to say, hey, do it like this, that doesn't mean that's the best, you know, like the only safe way to do it. So as a tradesman, you got to have an open mind.
Right.
As a safety professional, you have to have an open mind. You can't go in there and say, hey, they're going to do it like this, because I'm not there to interrupt production. I'm not. I'm there to try to make you go home how you came to work. That's it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I'm there to advise and recommend. Right? So,
Yep.
yeah.
Yep. And then just making sure that we're never stepping on the very top steps of the ladder.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I don't know if you guys know this, but it actually says it right on that top
Do
step.
not step
Do
on
not step on it.
Right.
Yep,
Absolutely.
storing tools.
Yeah.
Now there's slots inside of the top of a ladder.
Yeah.
You know, if you want to
Put a screwdriver,
or
yeah.
something like that.
A hammer.
We're talking setting like box of screws or
Bolt bag
on top of this ladder.
impact wrench.
You know,
something like that.
when you start climbing, it gets a little shaky. That comes down, cracks you in the head. You know, that kind of
Absolutely.
stuff.
Yeah.
Tape measures.
Yep.
I've seen plenty of tape measures fall off the top of step ladders and
Absolutely.
pop somebody in the
never.
head. Oh, really? Never?
That's never happened ever.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we just got to make sure that again, I'm going to steal some words from Lieutenant Oates here. It's just making sure that we're pre-planning all that work, right? Making sure that we know, hey, if we're going to get up here and we're going to have to utilize some screws or something like that to secure some material or something like that, making sure that we have a tool belt.
Right.
You know, something like that.
Absolutely.
Making sure that, you know, and there's so many options when it comes to just tool belts. You know, I know Python, they make a bunch of these tool belts, bags now that have
Shout
these,
out Python. We'll look for your sponsorship coming soon.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. That's not free, you know.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm marketing over here, guys.
So yeah, you know, Python makes these tool tie-off devices that come inside of the bolt bags and stuff like that. So there's several ways out there that we can set up our jobs for success, and it's not doing it after the fact, after we've dropped something, after we've hit somebody with the tool or something like that. It's all in the pre-planning process and making sure that we are just set up for success, so nobody gets hurt.
Plan your work your plan, right, Damon?
Absolutely. And if y'all pay any attention to what I say all the time, I always go back to planning, because a lot of times if you plan the work properly and you know what you're doing, that eliminates a lot of incidents.
Right.
A lot.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? Because
And that leaves you with no excuse not to work safe, right?
absolutely. You know what I mean? It's in the planning. It comes from the leadership.
Yep, and it doesn't matter what industry you're in. Like, again, I mentioned it earlier, we talk a lot about the construction industry, but I mean, even in the general industry, if you know you're going to be working off of ladders and stuff like that, you know, they make ladders now that you have a work positioning device that hooks straight into the chest of the harness that you're wearing and stuff like that. So they get up where they're going, they can lock in through their chest or however. And so there's so many ways through safety now that you can protect your employees, protect yourself while you're not only while you're out there working on a job, but while you're working at home as well. You don't have to be the guy that's standing on top of chairs to change a light bulb.
Right.
And so in my case, I actually went and bought a step ladder. So
Well, look at that.
so no more standing on chairs for me.
Right.
I mean, even though it's not my fault I'm vertically challenged, but you know, I remedied this situation. So
So we started the podcast, talking about the falls and ladders. So working from ladders, we're working from heights, and the number one thing we want to do is eliminate falls. So what are some of the ways we eliminate falls when working from ladders? First thing I think about is your fall protection systems, right? Making sure you have the right fall protection system for your application. So if I know I'm going to be working 10 feet in the air, should I use a shock absorbing lanyard, with a 6 foot lanyard with another 3 foot deceleration
We'll be
pack.
scraping you off the ground.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So know the applications of your fall protection systems, right?
Right. Yeah. So that requires, let's just say you need to have at least an 18-foot clearance or something like that. If you're going to be using the 6 foot lanyard, the SRL, like we mentioned earlier, the self-retracting lifeline, the leading edge fall protection, the climb and descent device that I was just referring to about tying off to the chest. So there's so many ways out there to prevent the fall. Making sure, like we mentioned earlier, making sure that your ladder's tied off,
Right.
And secure. Making sure that all these things are in place before you actually get up there and start doing the work. And if you do all that, and you should be good.
Absolutely.
We shouldn't be hearing about any more stories about how this is how this issue of getting injuries and stuff off of ladders is on the rise.
Yeah.
Right.
So, and if you don't know what we're talking about with fall distance and deceleration packs and shock absorbing lanyards, when you're looking into buying your fall protection systems, talk to your sales reps, talk to the manufacturers, read online, read any instruction manual that comes with it, because it's always going to show you that chart, probably the fall distance chart, your deceleration, how long it's going to take you to hit the ground. So know what kind of system you need for the application you're using. So I have a job I'm working right now where a lot of the guys are working at leading edges, and we talked about it earlier with the SRLs working near a leading edge. Well, with those work, they're using SRLs that aren't designed for leading edge. So it's one of those things where they're just not educated. So I encourage you to educate yourself on the types of fall protection systems that can be used when working from ladders, and know what works best for you.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So just to wrap all this up, just making sure that we're providing a safe job site when it comes to ladders. Make sure we're providing the right ladders, choosing the right ladders, inspecting them, setting them up, the right fall protection, and then just when we're working at heights and stuff like that. And so I would say, I would even say that some of those falls I bet came to just being complacent while you're working on ladders. So don't become complacent. Don't become too dependent and believe in that false sense of security that you're good to go just because you're on the ladder. So just making sure that those things aren't just that you're, again, just not getting complacent on those things. And the big thing is just take your time and slow down.
Right.
Absolutely.
Everything we just talked about, it applies to home as much as it does the workplace, right, guys? I mean, if you have a ladder at home, everything we're talking about, keep in mind the same stuff. Setting it up properly, choosing the correct ladder. If you don't have the right one, borrow one from your neighbor,
Right.
So do these things to prevent these types of incidents at home as well as at work.
All right.
Absolutely.
Well, gentlemen, that's another one in the books. So, Dylan, why don't you go ahead and remind everybody about our mission statement?
All right, guys, just remember, making a change impacts me, making a difference impacts others, and making history impacts the world.
All right, and again, coming to you live from the HardHat Studios in Alexandria, Virginia. Hey, make sure to follow us on all podcast platforms, whether it's Apple, Spotify, Google, Pocket Cast, Radio Cast, all of them that are out there, or follow us on any social media platform, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, wherever you can find us. And as always, you can reach out to us at hardhatuncovered@gmail.com. That way you can give us any comments, feedback, or just maybe some of the topics that you would like us to talk about. And again, thank you to Anthony Kim for giving us that shout out. So if you want to be recognized on our podcast, just give us a shout out.
Yeah.
It's pretty simple. It's free.
free advertisement.
Right.
What's that commercial right now? Free. So, all right, everybody.
All right, see you.